Mel from Crowded Table Farmstead, and we are getting ready for bed, and I thought that I would turn on the camera and show you guys how I whip up my overnight crusty bread. It is seriously the easiest bread that you'll ever make. There's no kneading involved. You literally mix it up and let it set overnight and bake it in the morning. I bake mine in my Dutch oven, and that kind of helps give it that bakery, artisan, just really professional looking crusty loaf. It traps in the heat so that it just gives it a really good crust. So I'm gonna whip that up and show you how I do it. Okay, so to start off, I am gonna grab 3 cups of bread flour. Bread flour has a higher gluten and just gives that, oh, I don't know, just that really nice crusty, holy bread feel that you get from like an artisan bakery. So I've got my 3 cups of flour. Next, I need a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, and then a good teaspoon of salt, maybe 1.5 teaspoons. We want it to have good flavor. And then the only thing that's left is some water. So it's half water to flour. So I'll need 1.5 cups of water. And warm water is best, but it'll really work with any water because it's going to sit and it's going to have enough time overnight to rise and get all bubbly, and it even sort of ferments a little bit, so it gives like sort of a sourdough type flavor. This whisk that I'm using, this is called a Danish dough whisk, and it's really nice for stirring up like I don't know, kind of dense, harder to stir doughs. It gets it nice and incorporated and doesn't just get stuck inside a whisk like it would a regular whisk. It kind of just falls out and makes the stirring process a little easier. Okay, so it's a really shaggy dough, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Just gonna clean off my whisk here. And I like to take my hands and just kind of make sure that all the flour is incorporated. But again, it's not gonna be like a dough ball. It's a very loose, wet dough. So don't expect it to come together like a smooth dough ball. Okay, I think that's perfect. Okay, so here is what the dough looks like when it's all stirred together. You just want to make sure that there's no dry flour and that it's all wet and incorporated. And all you need to do is stick some plastic wrap over top and let it sit overnight. Okay, so I've got my dough all mixed up. I'm going to put some plastic wrap on it and go to bed, and I'll be back in the morning to show you what it looks like. Okay, it's the next morning. And our dough is ready. You can see how it's all nice and bubbly and has risen, and it's ready to bake. So I've got my oven preheating to 450, and I actually already have my Dutch oven also preheating in there. That helps to get that nice crust on the dough. So I'll show you how I form the dough ball. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is sprinkle some flour on this piece of parchment paper. You want to make sure that the parchment paper is large enough that you can kind of pick up all the sides to put it in the Dutch oven without really smushing your dough ball too much. So we've got our flour down. And try to get it in the middle of your parchment paper, and then all you do is kind of lift up from each corner and fold it into the middle. And this just kind of creates like a rustic look on the top. No real designs or anything. Just kind of pinch it all in the middle, try to keep it even.
It's sticky.
And there we have our dough ball. So we will just wait until the Dutch oven preheats and get it cooking. I wanted to talk a little bit about another option that you could do with scoring and making like that pretty drawn on loaf with this recipe. So at this point in the morning, you could put it in a Banaton basket, or you could even make your own Banaton basket by using like a small glass bowl with like a tea towel down in it and just flour it really well. You'd have to flour your Banaton basket also, but flour it, whatever it is, really well that's gonna hold it into that loaf, that round loaf shape. Bless you. And so then at that point you would dump your dough kind of right into that basket. Or you could bring it out, shape it like this, and then quickly pick it up and put it into the basket. It might be easier to do it that way actually. So you're gonna fold your loaf in just like we did, and then quickly pick it up, put it into the floured Banaton basket or whatever you're using, and then put it in the fridge for a couple hours. So putting it in the fridge obviously helps it firm up a little bit. So after a couple hours, you could dump that loaf onto your parchment paper with a little bit of flour, just like we did. So at that point, you would put a little flour on the top of your loaf, kind of smooth it over, and then you could use a razor blade to score the top of your loaf. Sometimes I'll do like a little leaf scoring with a kind of a big score on the other side. The scoring helps so that when the loaf rises, it doesn't just kind of bust out where you don't want it to bust out at. The air has to escape from somewhere. With these rustic loaves, there's enough on top that it kind of allows it to bust open in a nice way. But if you just have a smooth top and don't score it, it's going to kind of bust out the bottom, and you really don't want that. It just doesn't look very pretty. So that's just another option that you could do. Just get it in the fridge for a couple hours, dump it out onto your parchment, score it, and then you'd move on just like we will here in a couple minutes. Okay, the oven just went off, so I'm gonna go ahead and take out my Dutch oven. Okay, so our oven is preheated. I got our Dutch oven out and it's all nice and hot. So I'm just gonna use my parchment paper to lift this loaf up. And I've just set it right down in the middle of my Dutch oven. I'm gonna fold these little flaps out, and as I put the lid on, that will hold them out so that the loaf holds its shape while it bakes. So I just sort of fold these out, and then when I get the lid on, that sort of helps keep them on the outside. I'm just going to go ahead, put this back in the 450-degree oven. For 30 minutes. So our bread is going to cook for 30 minutes with the Dutch oven lid on, and then we're going to cook it for another 30 minutes with the lid off. So I'll show you what it looks like between each step. It's going to get really dark and crispy on the top by the end. You're going to be tempted to want to pull it before 30 minutes, but it really does need that 30 minutes. And it's just going to have a really nice crust on the outside and still be nice and airy and fluffy on the inside. It's a really cold morning here in Ohio, and I'm really excited to have this bread fresh for lunch today. Maybe we'll make some soup or something. This recipe is so easy. You can even do it sort of opposite if you want to have it for dinner at night. You could start this in the morning before you run off to work or off to run errands. You could mix the dough up and then you could bake it, you know, at 4:30, 5 o'clock before you'd want to eat dinner. So it's really versatile. You could do it if you want it for lunch, start it at nighttime. If you want it for dinner, start it first thing in the morning. It's so easy, no kneading required. There's no real hard and fast time frame either. You could bake this after probably 6 hours, but you know, I've left it set for maybe 18 or so, and as it sits, it'll just get kind of more of a faux sourdough flavor as the flour starts to ferment. So it's a delicious, easy loaf of bread that I think your whole family will really like. Okay, first 30-minute timer just went off. So I'm gonna take this out, take the lid off. You can get the full written details for this recipe on crowdedtablefarmstead.com. Okay, here's what it looks like after the first 30-minute bake. It's getting a little brown, starting to bust open a little bit. And we're gonna put it back in uncovered for another 30 minutes, and I'll show you what it looks like. While we wait for that second 30-minute bake, I wanted to show you my Banaton basket. So I think I got this off of Amazon, and it's just kind of like a wicker type basket with a cloth insert. You could use it with or without the insert, but basically you flour this really well and you put your dough in it to rise in the fridge. And then once you dump it out, it's got this nice flat surface that you can then score with your razor blade before baking. So that works really nice. Or like I said, you could just get a bowl of a similar size and lay a tea towel down in it, flour it, and it works just the same. I've done it both ways. So I'll link one of these below if you would like to purchase your own. And I will also link a Dutch oven that I think is a good quality for value. Sometimes you can find Dutch ovens that are just ridiculously expensive, and there are similar quality ones for a lot less. So I'll link those below as well. All right, it's out of the oven. And it's nice and golden brown. All right, we have our beautiful bread. And let's give it a cut. Sometimes when you have bread like this that's fresh, you really should let it cool all the way so that it doesn't smush, but who can wait until it's cool? So I like to just kind of set it up on end, and then it doesn't smush quite as bad. Look at those beautiful airy pockets in there. Awesome. And now Mama gets to enjoy the butt for herself. Do you guys call it the butt? I call it the butt. So good. You've got to try it. I really hope you love this recipe just for a quick and easy, no knead, rustic artisan bread. If you enjoyed this video, I would really love it if you gave it a like, and please subscribe to my channel if you are interested in catching more of my DIYs and cooking tutorials and just keeping up as we grow our farm this year. And until next time, thank you for stopping by our crowded table.